You've said that this will be the biggest crash in world history. Maybe explain why. What is actually happening right now that we might not see reported in the papers every day? What's actually going on?
When I was a kid, my poor dad used to have me building the structures of universe. He called them like squares, tetrahedrons, icosahedrons, dodecahedrons. I'm like 10 years ago. What the hell am I studying this stuff for, But it affected my brain because I was working with my hands. So I was doing math with little sticks and glue and things like this. And so I learned more by doing, not by reading books. When I'm doing something, I learn more. So in '60s, after building the dome dealing little tetrahedrons, icosahedrons, dodecahedrons as a kid, it stuck in my brain. So in 1967, I'm in school, the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, one of the 5 federal schools in America, military school. And I hitchhiked from New York to Montreal, and I went through the geodesic dome. It blew me away. I went, holy mackerel. So that's how it all got started. So Fuller was a futurist. John Denver wrote a song about him, calling him the grandfather of the future. And so for 3 years, 81, 82, and 83, I studied with Fuller during the summer to how to see the future. And next year sometime, I'm coming out with a book called The Raven. And the raven in Greek mythology was the god of prophecy. And so here's this book here, Rich Dad's Prophecy, just to prove I back up what I say. I can prove I said this stuff. So I said the biggest stock market crash is still coming. And this was after the 2008 crash. And the reason I could predict that the 2008 crash was just a prelude, even China's crashing today, because they never fixed the problem. In fact, the whole problem is that the global economic system is rigged. It's called the central bank system. The Bank of Japan, the Bank of England, Bank of Japan, stuff like this. This whole system is rigged. So I'm reading Grunch of Giants, and Grunch of Giants stands for gross universal cash heist. It's how our wealth is stolen via our money. So I read Grunch of Giants, and that's how I can write books like Prophecy. And the way I'm not just blowing smoke today is you go get the book. And so what happened, 2008 crash, and then what that set up the biggest, as you know, because your experience on Wall Street, it set up the biggest bull market in history. But it was based upon fake money. They just kept printing more, using more debt. Because as you know, Brian, money is debt. If we don't borrow money, money doesn't exist. So money comes into existence because every time you take out a mortgage, buy a car, that's when money is created. Central banks, which is Marxism. And then in 1913, in America, the Internal Revenue Service was created, the IRS, because money cannot exist without debt and taxes. So anyway, that's how I could write Prophecy. And as you know, in 2021, China collapsed. And that's why COVID appeared again. Notice that? So Evergrande, which is the biggest, I think it's bigger than Lehman Brothers crash. And Evergrande's going down. Now, when real estate goes down, it's a financial crash more than anything else. They have 90 million condos in China not occupied. Right now, when real estate goes down, it takes all the economies of the world with it. Like, Australia, one of my favorite countries, ships a lot of supplies to China. And there, Australia was booming because China was booming with real estate. And so in 2021, when it collapsed, that means Australia collapses more. But that's why I think Australia locked the country down also. Everybody to stay indoors and all this. I personally think they're afraid of civil unrest. And so I think that's why, COVID appeared in September 17, 2019, our repo market collapsed. And the repo market is the shadow banking system, as they call it. You don't see that market, but I'm watching the shadow banking system. And when the repo market collapsed in September 17, 2019, voila, COVID appeared.
There's a lot of money that's being printed. Most of the world doesn't understand that, and they kind of buy in to this idea. Do you feel like the world is starting to realize what's happening with maybe the advent sometimes of cryptocurrencies, or them seeing the massive QE that happened during COVID, do you think like sometimes the curtain is being pulled back and that more people are realizing what's going on? Or are they just too poor to really see what's happening?
What the school teach you about money? Answer's nothing. It's crickets, just nothing. And then today, instead, they're talking about critical race theory, that they want to change boys to girls and all this other stuff. I'm going, I don't want to change from boy to girl. I'm quite happy being a male, you know what I mean? and just recently, like a few months ago, they called parents terrorists in America because they actually dared to challenge the education system. They want to know what the heck they're teaching the kids. So these parents are in these huge rooms and, what do you call them, PTA meetings or Parent Teachers Association meeting. The parents are up and down and they get labeled terrorists. So something, Brian, I'm afraid it's going to get worse. But unfortunately, today it's coming true.
Yeah. How do you tell people that they should get their heads around what's happening, and should they be panicking?
It's a tough one, Brian, because when I wrote this book here, Prophecy, right, a lot of the people giving financial advice, all they know is a bull market.
Yeah.
You see, they were born, just prior to 2008. They're now probably, let's say, 25 years old. They're financial planners, real estate brokers. And all they know is the S&P keeps going up. Don't fight the Fed. I mean, they're idiots. But unfortunately, without financial education in our schools, you can't blame them, but they don't know what a bear market looks like, and they don't know what inflation looks like, because inflation has made them rich. M2, the money supply is so huge today because they're trying to prevent the balloon from collapsing. They're desperate. Yes, their inflation is they're trying to prevent the collapse. And Jim Rickards, he's one of the smartest guys I know. He says, prepare, we're going to collapse. And as people don't understand, most 98% don't understand this. The dollar is a reserve currency of the world, which came about in 1944 with the Bretton Woods Agreement. We can just keep printing money. But the rest of the world's collapsing right now. And everybody depends upon the US printing. But that's why I watched China. And when Evergrande came down in 2021, the biggest real estate collapse in history, bigger than 2008. And all of a sudden, they locked people down with COVID. I'm going, I've seen this story before because it happened in 2019. They're desperate, Brian. They're desperate. They're looking for anything that can stop this thing. But when, every time they said to me, don't fight the Fed, I'm saying, don't trust the Fed was my stay. Why would I trust those SOBs? They're a central bank system. The Rothschilds and all those guys control them. The richest families in the world control the central banks. And printing until the thing is destroyed. That's my prediction. Call somebody a commie. That's not the best thing to do. But economics, as you know, Brian, is kind of a philosophy. So it's like Christianity is different than Buddhism or Hinduism or Muslim. So economics is kind of an economic religion, to keep it simple.
Yeah.
So when you read Marx, most academics, like my poor dad, who was a PhD from Stanford University, was a Marxist, but they don't know it. They're not bad people. But without financial education, they got no choice. And actually, I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad in response to the Communist Manifesto, answering the question, why don't we teach money at school? It's not a mistake, Brian. It's not a mistake. Because what Marx predicted has come to us, 1848. Okay? He said communism would take over America specifically, or the capitalist world, in two stages. So stage one happened in 1930. In 1930, the Frankfurt School out of Berlin sent teachers to...
But you know both sides so well, Robert, and that's why you can kind of explain both of them. And
yeah, predicted it here. That's how I see the world from very economic point of view, but real economics. I mean, so I had to listen to two different points of view. Again, economics is basically a religion. And the question is, which religion do you want to follow? Tax the rich or don't pay taxes? Put your money in an IRA or don't put any money in the stock market. So I own no stocks except the companies I took public. I'm a capitalist. I invest from this side and this side. These guys cannot go public. You know that, I know that. And supposedly an ETF it's automatically managed for you. But to do what this side does, when I was about 18, I had to make up my mind which one was I going to be. Then my education changed. It always changed. And so I do have a college degree. It's a Bachelor of Science in oil. And it made me a rich man. But you have to choose your degree. But what made me rich is I also have my rich dad's information is I invest in the oil well, not the oil stock. And I'll say it again, the Fed cannot print oil.